This summer, I dedicated my research to the Chicana political participation in Austin, Texas during el Movimiento Chicano with the help of my research director, Dr. Muskis. I wanted to preface that this research was inspired by my previous research on my mom's experience in East Austin from 2005 to 2011, and I felt very empowered by her story, so I hope to empower you guys through an oral history of the Chicana experience. But going into my research, I learned of the importance of the historical context, especially with el Movimiento Chicano, and the legacy of the 1950s and the 1960s had everything to do with was the most relevant to my research. I would describe this time as one of national political consciousness, strong sentiments and political participation surrounding the Vietnam War and women's liberation proved a powerful tool of resistance through protests, rallies, and just public participation overall. Moreover, the escalation of the civil rights movement paved the way for other people of color to realize their power and potential as they pushed the boundaries through society. El Movimiento Chicano in the Lone Star State can be best described through its student/youth activism, community engagement, and political participation. Chicanos from all over Texas were called to Austin due to its relevance and proximity to the Chicano community and the movement at its peak. The University of Texas encouraged Chicano political participation through classes, seminars, and discussions over a variety of struggles such as farm workers' rights and the Vietnam War. Community centers were the heart and soul of the movement through their community engagement and being able to relate to the collective struggles that Chicanos alike faced in East Austin. Moreover, political engagement and political participation during el Movimiento Chicano played a significant role in the Lone Star State. Texas was the birthplace of La Raza Unida Party of Crystal City and the Mexican American Youth Organization of San Antonio. The movement began to challenge the existing political structure, and the political participation of Chicanas quickly became suitable to the current climate of Texas. Racism, the continued racism and oppression had an intense impact on this generation of activists. Schools will prohibit students from speaking Spanish, and students would be physically reprimanded whenever they spoke Spanish. Many incidents involved teachers making students wash their mouth with soap. So the reality for Chicanos and the African American population of East Austin is one marked by poverty, segregation, racism, and feebleness. The racism would be bolstered by the segregation of the Black and brown communities in the physical and economic sectors of East Austin. In 1962, Austin would permanently function around the completion of Interstate 35, and in the following slides, you'll see the development of that construction. The construction of Interstate 35 will underpin the Anglo-West with resources, relevance, and power. What was once a wide parkway with a naturally landscaped center and multiple cross streets is now an enduring mechanism of segregation. Due to the disparity in resources, the resources available to East and West Austin highlighted that as funding and access to resources continued to be allocated to West Austin, having a ripple effect on the health of the community of East Austin. Moreover, there was a lack of academic resources for the Chicano community, and it didn't help that higher education was not an expectation that society had for Chicanos. U.S. history professor Guadalupe San Miguel explains that 4 groups in particular failed to enjoy full access to public education, including agricultural migrants, secondary school and post-secondary school Mexican-American students, and undocumented children. Once we consider the past, we are able to better grasp and begin to comprehend my research question: how did Chicanas use political opportunities during the Movimiento Chicano in Austin to break barriers and make a political impact during the movement? To remain true to the original stories, I utilized oral histories as my main source of this research. From the Civil Rights in Black and Brown Oral History Project, which they describe the efforts as interpreting, collecting, and sharing oral history interviews conducted with members within the white, Black, and brown communities in Texas during the mid-20th century. and the Briscoe Center for American History, specifically the Texas History Collection, and they depict the center's archives as a part of UT's efforts to preserve, collect, and make accessible the evidence to our past. And as far as procedure, I analyzed the interviews and transcripts according to the following concepts: feminism, political opportunity, political involvement, and Chicana ideology. An in-depth analysis considering the implications of their participation requires identifying and interpreting their empowerment through their intersecting identities and factors that define the Chicana experience, including gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, to interpret how these how this allowed for political opportunity and for the Chicanas to be involved in positions of leadership. To remain true to the Chicana experience of local Austin, the criteria for the interviews that I selected included prominent Chicanas present and involved in the Movimiento Chicano in Austin, Texas in the 1970s and 1980s. Whether educated traditionally or through experience, the participants in the Chicanas empowered themselves through the political opportunities in Texas. This is just some general information on the 4 Chicanas that I chose for my case study. Susana Almanza, Teresa Perez, and Sylvia Herrera would come from the Civil Rights in Black and Brown, and Cynthia Orozco from the Briscoe Center. So the political opportunities that I saw throughout that I pointed out throughout their oral history projects included student protests and rallies and the walkout movement. Political opportunities for Chicanas in Austin, Texas flourished during the Movimiento Chicano in the 1970s and 1980s. Susana Almanza organized a walkout her senior year in Austin High in 1971. What was considered a cross-racial student protest, as she, along with fellow classmates, reached out to other student organizations and created a list of demands, which included dropping the GPA requirement to get into organizations. Typically, these minority communities were unable to participate in school outside of academics because of that requirement and that disparity in education. And they also mandated that the student council have people of color on the committee. Unfortunately, the school did find out that they were going to have a walkout, and they prevented the students from doing so. But with over 100 students rallied, they went directly to the principal and superintendent and successfully had their demands met. Political participation flourished in La Raza Unida Party, which is a third party endorsed by Chicano activists. Teresa Perez's experience with them spurred around the time she applied for the Young Democrats chapter in Austin in around 1972. She wanted to apply for the president position, but was told by the then party chair that, quote, that position is held by a white man always. And she went on to explore La Raza Unida Party after she transferred to UT in 1972. She originally denied them at first because she was a Democrat at heart, and also because of her perception of the organization being geared towards educated students, but she would soon come to build a network with them, a community with them, and learn and be able to expand on her leadership skills. Community involvement was important for El Movimiento Chicano and a form of political opportunity for Sylvia Herrera, who worked with the elderly and tackled social issues in Austin from 1975 to 1985. With her MA in social work and within a concentration of programs and administration for the elderly, she identified services needed or requested by the elderly that they did not have available at the time. And she would consciously continue to point out the community's needs, including transportation, public health services, and park improvements. She also stressed how the divide between East and West Austin contributed to that disparity. Susana Almanza's political opportunity through community involvement can be seen at her time at the East Austin Neighborhood Center. During her time there as a secretary, she was allowed to hear everything and be heavily involved, and as well as pick up and develop the skills that could find her leadership in the future. And through the network she built there, she was able to get into the newspaper business and have her own show on radio. Political opportunities at the University of Texas at Austin were a lot. Cynthia E. Orozco enrolled at UT in 1978. Her first class in the Center for Mexican American Students was revolutionary, and fun fact, that program was established around 1970s. And this is where her interest in becoming a historian sparked. Quote, "It was the first time I had ever heard of our people having a distinctive history." Here, she came up with the idea with fellow Longhorn Mary Sue Galindo to come up with the Center for Mexican American Studies newsletter, where she would go on to focus her publications on the sexism in academia, organizations, and within the Chicano community. She also dedicated her senior thesis to the origins of LULAC, with sources from major civil rights activist Adela Sostento and major founder of LULAC, Alonso Perales. Through their political opportunities and their active involvement, these four prominent Chicanas were able to break barriers through empowerment, awareness, action, and leadership, breaking expectations and the livelihoods of those within the community well after the end of the movement. Thanks to Teresa Perez's leadership skills and accomplishments, she was able to attend Del Mar College under a LULAC Men's Scholarship, and she would also go on to sue the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees for equal pay. Susana Almanza and Silvia Herrera co-founded People Organized in Defense of Earth and Her Resources in 1991. They described this as a woman-led, people of color grassroots social justice organization formed to increase the participation of residents in East Austin. And Susana Almanza would also go on to be one of the very first Chicanas from East Austin to earn her PhD at UT. Cynthia E. Orozco's breaking barriers involved empowerment and awareness of the Chicano history. She would go on to pursue her higher education at UCLA and explore beyond what she thought was possible with her socioeconomic background. She contributed to the preservation of Chicano history through archives and tapes, and through her time at the Daily Texan, would go on to write and speak on issues that she felt passionate about concerning her identities and race and gender within the Chicano community. In conclusion, their political participation dismantled institutional barriers. The Chicana experience changed culturally, socially, and through familial relations and expectations of Chicanas. Education was valued, knowledge was shared, and participation was encouraged. The limitations in my research were the fact that my main sources were oral histories and my small pool in the case study, and the limitations of the original oral histories and the civil rights in Black and Brown. Future research that I would love to expand on, there is so much more to the Chicano experience that I couldn't dedicate to, such as environmental factors, that disparity between East and West Austin, the health of the community, and the indigeneity to the Chicana identity. Now I'd like to acknowledge my research director, Dr. J.Guajardo, the McNair Scholars Program, Dr. Minus, Dora, Pedro, and Corey, and my families and friends. Thank you.